JB here. October 10th, 2024, 9 o'clock on this fine CPI Thursday. Talk really quick about the market, some names I'm looking at, go from there. But I take a look at markets chopping around here after the CPI data came in somewhat in line. Month over month was in line. Year over year was slightly above expectations, just a tad hotter than expectations. I, I don't think it does much in regards to changing what the Fed's going to do, or to be honest, I don't think it does much with the market here, but we are selling a little bit off. Uh, Markets are all-time highs. So probably some chop here today. 575 was a key area. Blue skies typically beget new new highs. Typically beget new highs. Meaning as we start breaking through some of these levels, sellers are gone. So probably easier path of least resistance, probably to the upside, pending any crazy geopolitical stuff or some other out of nowhere event. And I wouldn't call it black swan, but hey, you never know. So you take a look. Monday we had that big sell off, nearly 1% to the downside. Then a reversal Tuesday, and this is all in the face of 4% 10-year yields and the VIX, which is still over, and it's in the green right now. It's at 21 right now. So just pretty remarkable. And then another rally again yesterday, and we'll see what happens here today. Probably some chop, some consolidation. Then we have earnings season tomorrow with the banks. Should be interesting. And then things really pick up with Netflix reporting next Thursday. So that's kind of that. Let me just get this here. Let me talk about, well, first, here's the VIX. And, it's funny. You look at the VIX, and it was doing nothing back in May, June, and even with some of these swings we had back in the spring, the VIX was still in 15, right? And then we had that big spike in August. We had that jobs report, then the whole yen carry trade, and all that other BS narrative. I wouldn't call it BS narrative. Market did sell off. And then the VIX kind of went back down to 15. And then since the start of September, I don't know if it's the election. The Fed, everybody was, at first you would think at the start of September, it was the volatility getting priced into the Fed rate cut. And then we've already had the jumbo rate cut. So who knows what it is now. Fed minutes after the 2 o'clock yesterday, pretty much as expected, almost like more of a hawkish tone. And some of the Fed members talked about just a 0.25% rate cut. And now you start looking at the probabilities for the next Fed meeting, which started November. It's 0% probability of a jumbo rate cut, which it was 30% only a week ago. And now you actually have probabilities of no rate cut going up. I think it's 20% now. It was 0% last week. So you have kind of that shift, which I think is a good thing, because you want the Fed to be able to have ammo if things get crazy, right? If we have inflation, you want to make sure they didn't cut rates too quick. And then if we see that maybe the starts of or signs of a recession, you want to the Fed to be able to react, right? So which if they cut rates too fast, they're not going to be able to react. So that's the overall market. I'm not going to talk about the small caps, which underperform for the second session in a row. One of these days, right? One of these days is going to start to outperform. All right, individual names, and I talked about WW yesterday. I'm not going to do much of a rant here. Locked some of my strikes that I got in August for close to 200%. Still holding some January strikes. I was looking yesterday, and I actually might look to get some April strikes. So here's the thought process, and it's $120 million market cap, does $800 million in revenues, has a 16-17% short interest. It has a lot of debt too. I think the similar market valuation, $800 million in revenues, is their debt. I think they have $800 million in debt. A lot of it's due payable all the way at 2027, 2028. So they have plenty of time, and the fact the rates going down probably helps that as well. But if this is the start of maybe they see an influx of members due to the fact that they're now going to offer compounded GLP-1 drugs, could be even if it's just a burst of profits and revenues, could be one of those things that kickstarts it. So you look at a stock, if it trades 1 times revenues, it's 70 million shares outstanding. You're talking it's $8-9 stock, and then you start talking about growth. So I'm not going to sit here and be bullish. You take it with a grain of salt, because I was bullish on WW a while back, and I traded calls for some nice gains back then as well. But I also had calls that didn't do so well because the stock just got pummeled. So the issue would be, if I do add April strikes, it could be the market starts pricing in a bankruptcy again, and the stock goes under $1, and you're staring at those calls for another 6 months, which is not fun, right? But then on the flip side, if this becomes a FOMO scenario, a bull case does play out, I mean, those calls could be up 500, 600, 1,000, 2,000%. So that's kind of the risk reward I'm looking at. We'll see what happens here today. If it does show more signs of continuation, I might look for some April strikes there to my Januaries. That's WW. Roku, I think this is the ninth bullish analyst note since the start of September. JP Morgan upgraded the price target on Roku to 92 from 90, kept their overweight rating. Uh, Netflix put earnings on Thursday. I don't know if it's going to, maybe the whole sector can move up, or at least in that area move up in tandem. Netflix hit all-time highs yesterday. I think it got a downgrade today from Morgan Stanley. But anyway, it was disappointing because Monday the market sold off 1% and Roku was green. Then it rallied again on Tuesday. And then yesterday, when the market continues to rally, the stock faded nearly 1%. So just frustrating. It seemed like yesterday would have been a day for it to break out, to get over 80 bucks. Once it breaks 80, I think it's off to the races again. So don't be surprised if I add some more strikes, but I'll wait for strength, possibly once it breaks that 80 handle. So that's Roku. AMD has their AI event, right? What's it called? AI. Oh, I have it on the tip of my tongue. And advancing AI, right? So their presentation is actually going to be live streamed starting at 12 o'clock Eastern. I'm sure they're going to announce a slew of new chips, right? And now, is this going to be a sell the news event, or is this going to be a wow? AMD is ready to play with the big boys, right? Come back to really maybe start to take some share from NVIDIA. Who knows, but it traded off yesterday. I was hoping to see some continuation. It's down here at 171. I'll just hold the last of my 180s into the event, and then if it does show some strength and it starts to rally, it could be one of those names that tests 190 next week. And it's one of those events too. Once they announce the chips and things, maybe the market isn't able to react yet, and then it will take the analysts overnight and everybody pouring over the new chips and the ramifications and all that. And then Friday morning could be one of those situations where it either gaps up big or sells off. So of course, I think the former, I think it'll rally, but I guess we'll find out at 12 o'clock. So certainly be watching. I posted a link in a watch list. That's AMD. Clear Secure, back-to-back sessions to the upside, up nearly 4% yesterday. Hopefully some continuation here today. If it breaks over 34, you're talking multi-year highs, and then I think 36. And it's one of those names like maybe it goes over 40 bucks in the coming weeks. So don't be surprised when I add some November strikes on the break over 34. Still have some October calls. Hopefully those start to come back to life. WYNN and Baidu, I mean, I would say disappointing. WYNN was green yesterday, but to me it's disappointing because it still hasn't recouped its levels from 2 days ago. Still like this one for 115 plus. Talked about it yesterday afternoon on a rant. Some big call action, especially on the November and December strikes. I think all the way up to 145. So still like the story. The CEO was on CNBC yesterday, I think, talking about the UAE construction and all that. I haven't had a chance to listen to it. But I still think this has room to go. China markets were up overnight, so maybe that's a sign that, hey, okay, they've shaken out all the disappointment of the stimulus news, right? The hopes that it was going to be even bigger. And then those markets find some footing and some of these China names can start running, including Baidu. Baidu's slightly in the green here in the pre-market. If that gets over, I think I put 106. If it gets 106, 107 today, I might look for some strikes into next week. You also have the Tesla robo-taxi event today. So I don't know how much that could impact on Baidu, but Baidu's doing the robo taxis in China. There's talks and report from the Wall Street Journal yesterday that they're looking to do the robo taxi and roll it out in other countries in Asia. So I mean, that's just one more lever that Baidu's going to pull, and the fact is still trades down here still boggles my mind. That's Baidu. And then Visa and MasterCard disappointing. I had those as hedges, and you take a look, they both closed almost identically to the upside yesterday, both up 0.7% or so. You still have a potential bear flag sending up on Visa. The 50 and 200-day moving average right there, 272 and 273. If there's weakness on any of on Visa or MasterCard, I might look for some Visa puts into next week. Still holding strikes into this week. Obviously, they've taken it on the chin, so going to need a large downside move, but at least they offer some protection if we do get some craziness. And again, the VIX is still over 21. So until that gets under 20 bucks, I wouldn't say I'm on pins and needles or whatever you want to say, walking on eggshells. But to me, it's just something doesn't smell right. Like it just doesn't, you rarely see the VIX elevated like this and the market at all. It just doesn't make sense, right? But I guess sometimes the market doesn't make sense, right? All right, so that's Visa. And then last but not least, Universal Display, tight Bollinger Band set up still. I say this many times over the years. Some of the best moves have come on tight Bollinger Band setups. When those Bollinger Bands get really tight together, it usually precedes a large outside move, sometimes 10, 15%. I can see Universal Display getting a 225 plus in the coming days. Don't be surprised if I add some strikes there. It's not the most liquid name. It's a 300,000 share volume yesterday. It doesn't trade millions of shares, but sometimes that offers an opportunity to take advantage, right? So that's that. I'm trying to think of some of the other things. Yeah, Robotaxi, banks tomorrow for earnings. Domino's Pizza this morning had earnings. It's kind of flat. It's funny, the headlines came out. Domino's lower after reporting earnings, mixed bag of earnings, and now it's in the green. Not going to trade that one, but I could kind of set the stage for some of the other names like Wingstop, which has been on a tear. That's it, folks. Let's have a great day. I'll be back on audio later. Rock and roll.